the children's program this morning.
Find out where God lives if you want to. Oh, there we go. Come on.
That's Louise. Who is that woman? I'm here.
Sparkle in the dress.
So this morning, we're reading the text from Jeremiah, the hope text from Jeremiah that talks about a new covenant. And this new covenant is a covenant that's not known here, but it's known here. We'll say more about that in a little while. We ended a covenant it will be just over 6 weeks ago. We ended a covenant, and that kind of left this space and a wonderment that what's going to happen with the Children and Youth and Families Ministry. And so I'll say more about that later on this morning, but in the interim, Sophia became available. And so I thought we would have a conversation about covenants that we make, that I've made, covenants that you've made, and really in particular, what puts us in this place at this time? How did we get here, you and me, us? And why? Do you want to start?
You start.
Okay. What puts me here and why? I actually will say more about this also when I speak this morning, but I was a child of the United Church of Canada, and I will say that whenever I stepped into whatever it was the congregation was, when I kind of put my foot in again permanently, there's been nothing but this opening. There's not been walls of resistance. There's not been anything I've kind of been invited. I stepped into. Folks said, come, welcome. What do you got to say for yourself? So that's just been my experience as I was a volunteer in the church for the longest time. I was ordained an elder at 21. Crazy, right?
His age.
His age. They laid hands on me. And when you're ordained an elder in the Presbyterian Church, that was a practice in the United Church back in the 80s when we ordained elders. Those who had the steward and the session, that two-headed governance structure with an official board, we ordained the elders. Well, I was an ordained elder and a communion visitor. I took the communion cards. I was 21 knocking on people's doors. Would you come to communion on Sundays? Right? I didn't know what I was doing. But that's what happened. And so I was a volunteer, and I became the chair of worship, and I conducted choirs, and I went on staff at Naramata Center, and then I was called into ministry. And it's been this opening. So there's something about this sense of right vocation that it's just right. Just resonates. So that's me. What about you?
So
what are you doing here?
What I hear you saying is that every moment when you've been willing to say yes to God said yes back to you.
That's my
In the
experience.
form of the people, the places, the callings that came to you.
Correct.
Is this on? Do we hear? Okay. And so I believe that my journey to here started back in the late 80s. I lived in Washington, D.C. at the time. And at the time, I spent all of the 80s, all of the 90s working with adults and training them how to be better business people, how to be better leaders. But each and every time I would do another workshop or do another consulting project, I kept getting that the most profound and amazing feedback I would get was how what we were doing was changing their life at home. And then some silly little men, as the Dalai Lama would say, hit their planes into some buildings on September 11th, 2001. I lived a mile from the Pentagon. And realized in that moment I needed to do work that made an impact on the family, that made an impact on the children of our world, and ultimately the whole world. And so 3 months later, I moved from Washington, D.C. to Southern California to go to ministerial school. And for me, that's been such a journey of really realizing that my call to be with people in relationship, to see how I might be able to contribute to the peace of God being within each individual. And in particular, I really felt in that moment that the consciousness shift that needed to take place was to help children find that peace of God within them and to express it more fully in their communities, in their churches, and in the world. And so since that time, it's been that journey, and that journey led me ultimately to Christina, who was here, and to doing some work with her, and then being invited to be with all of you for the celebration of Barbara's son's life, who was also part of that journey of what transpired from that moment of those silly little men getting those buildings in 2001. And in that moment, my covenant with God, because each and every step along this way was a covenant. I said, I'm willing to say yes, but I need a yes from God, from finances, from support, from churches to serve in order to render my yes. And so in my mind, life is really that series of covenants, of saying yes, and then just allowing those people, places, and things to come together for the next right step. And so that's what this feels like, is that next right step, to continue deepening my relationship with Barbara and all of you, and to continue to be a part of working with beautiful teenagers like Jessica, and little ones like, I hear Megan's coming some point from a sleepover, and
Louise.
And Louise.
Little Louise did the dance.
She's the one.
Yeah, she's
And so thank you all for being that next yes. That is God saying yes to me, to be able to participate in a community that is ready to take its next yes in its covenant with God about what transition, what change, what goodness wants to be birthing through all of you as part of your covenant with Blair, your covenant with God, and your covenant with each other to this next chapter of your experience of community.
cool. I heard you say that this is, again, reiterating some of what I was, this sense of yes is met with God's yes. And somehow there's everything segues to a song. You'll discover that everything segues.
That's my life.
Segues to a song. And it's this foundational thing. That's bedrock material, right? To say yes, and we're met with yes. That's bedrock material. Count on that. Rock. Jesus is the rock. So we're gonna sing this song. This is new to us. It's a zipper song. We drop names. So I'll sing it to you. We'll sing the chorus once. Hang on there, Paul, for a while. And Jesus is the rock that lasts. Jesus is the rock that lasts. Our souls have found a resting place. Jesus is go out with Sophia. Sophia's going to be with our children this morning. And she's all ready, and I've seen where she's going. Anybody who wants to go can go there too. So you can do that now, and we'll